Right. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Living Blessed, the podcast. I'm your host, Joevan J. Palmer, and I got a very special and dope guest. Goes by the name of River Jones. How you doing, River?
I am well.
It's good to see you.
You as well.
I haven't seen you since the last Greenlit.
Yeah, it's been a minute.
Dang, that was the pandemic.
Yo, so we hitting a year.
Yes, but you just discussed that you've been doing some traveling.
I have.
How's that been? Go and tell the people about yourself, who you are.
Yes. River Jones, your mental health coach. And if you don't know, now you know. Boxing and rapping have been my therapy. So that's how I got into the mental health field. And it kind of ties back into the traveling. So I've been on this mission to develop myself and develop my business.
Yeah.
You know? And doing so in a way where I'm giving myself experiences, doing so in a way where I'm practicing what I preach. So I started to believe in this thing called crazy faith, you know, taking leaps of faith. Super crazy, right? So just trusting that, like, no matter what, I'm going to win. Now, I may choose the hard route.
Right,
so I'm learning, okay, what is the path of least resistance? And what I've been learning along the way is that environment does matter. You know, the surroundings of what people you're around matter, you know. And the more and more I'm seeking to understand my drive and myself, because I used to have people tell me all the time, you know, take care of you before you take care of other people. That didn't set right with me because it sounds selfish in a very toxic way.
I'm just not learning that.
Yeah.
Just now learning.
You know, that is the coldest lesson, because as the oldest sibling and as just a natural giver and the leader and called upon to, you know, to really look after people, it felt like a requirement for me to be my best self. It's just like to be self-sacrificial. And so in my journey to say, okay, what do I desire, and going on this kind of nomad hunt of, like, you know, where do I belong, where do I fit in, and also where do I thrive the most. I found myself in New Jersey, you know, Georgia was a trip in itself. I'm from Washington State, you know, West Coast.
How you get over here?
That part, okay. Yeah, no, real life, I was teaching a class out there, and it was a joke, like legit a joke. Like I didn't expect to really do it, but I had a student who kind of challenged me to think of something creative to do the next day. And so my creative activity was to ask them, what did you want to be when you grew up? So we all got the answers. Some kid said, like, yo, nobody ever asked me that before. Blew my mind, right? And then, of course, someone asked me, okay, Miss Jones, what you want to be when you grew up? And
it hit you.
I hadn't really prepared an answer.
How old were you at this time?
At this time, I was 18 going on 19, and my student, I was 19 going on 20. 19 going on 20, and my students were anywhere from 25 to 28. They were in a transitional housing program, right? And so they're older than me at that, you know, but they're like going in at a, you know, drug abuse. Some just have been homeless for years, you know, some being foster students, all kind of stuff, you know. Yeah. So I really was just meeting them where they were at, with giving them community resources and stuff. But the conversations would get so, like, with my caseload anyway, they would just get so deep that we began to have organized, like, workshops and sessions. And I started teaching meditation classes and bringing them oils and stuff, just at random. But eventually it got more organized, you know. So I would bring in, I'm playing ET in the morning to wake them up and stuff. So I'm the only one, like, I would abuse the speakers. I'm I'm waking them up, you know. You owe you an explanation, you know. Right. So, okay. Like, word up, but it would get them hyped for the ones that would listen. They'd listen. Yeah. And so when I asked them, like, what they wanted to be, my follow-up, though, this was like my little fun kicker, like, you didn't see it coming, you know. I was like, okay, who told you couldn't do that? What resources do you need? Because we can get them resources right now today. So when they asked me what did I want to be when I grew up, you know, I said the first thing that come to mind, you know, I wanted to be a rapper. I started rapping when I was 3, you know, so it was like my long-term wish and goal was, like, by the time I'm 18, I'm gonna buy my mom a house and do all this, like, crazy dope rapper lifestyle stuff, you know. Yeah. And it didn't exactly pan out that way. And they started laughing when I said it, though. When I said I wanted to be a rapper, because they had known me as the meditation lady, you know.
So it didn't make sense to them.
Like, they're looking at me like, yo, you the rapper. Yeah, so it was just like an uproar. And I'm like, oh, y'all think it's funny. I'm like, no, for real. I wanted to go to ATL, you know, be Nunu, marry T.I., and go to Spelman. And like, for real, I watched the movie ATL and just got like convinced that was my life as a kid. And they completely just like started rolling, but my mind went to, your class means nothing if you don't hold yourself accountable the way you're holding them accountable to what they said first of mine.
Yeah.
So what would you say to one of your students if they said something as crazy and wild as that? And it's like, it may seem like a far stretch, but I would say, like, go see what God got for you in Georgia then, since Georgia's what you said, right? And now everybody in there didn't set a career, you know, things that they can do in town.
Yeah.
I didn't pick relocation.
Right.
I'm like, nah, I can't hold myself to that, man.
That's a big commitment, though.
Where I'm going?
Washington State,
Yeah.
all the way to Georgia.
Yeah, but I was so big on integrity at the time. I was so big on not being seen as fake, because I had just went through 3 name changes within 2 years.
Wait, you changed your name 3 times?
Yeah, man.
To what?
My first
So
time.
you never always been River? So your River's not your birth name?
It's not.
It's a really cool name. I
Thank
love
you.
very unique names. Like when I have kids, I want to like really name them unique names,
Right.
like a river,
Right.
because I know it has a very deep meaning, and I want to touch on that when we get to that point. So what's your birth name?
Celicia Ciciana Searles was my original name.
Celicia Sarasano
Ciciana
Searles.
Yes, that's a lot of S's, I know.
Yeah, SSS.
I was slithering. You know?
Clearly.
But yeah, Celicia Ciciana Searles. And my mother's husband's last name was Dillingham. And so I carried Dillingham publicly. Like all of, from 3 years old till 18. So my boxing career was under that name. My school documents were under that name. But when I went to get my diploma, it wasn't legal. And Searles, Celicia Ciciana Searles, didn't have a history. So they were like, yo, you're going to either have to go back and redo all your schooling in this legal name, or you're going to have to go get a legal name change.
Do all your schooling
all
over?
My schooling. They was
From
like
kindergarten?
They had no history of a Dillingham. From 3 years old, my mom got married when I was 3. So from all of my history from 3 through my senior graduation, they were like, yo, you're not getting this diploma because you don't exist.
So how did this happen? Did your mom got married to your stepdad, and
wrote on paper
just saying that my daughter's last name is
Dillingham. Period.
But didn't go to like the whole Social Security office, and is it because she just didn't know, or?
I mean, she had me at 14, so I'm sure there was some information missing that
Oh, you have a very young mom.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Got you.
And so there was a lot that that came of that, but for sure the name change the biggest. And legit, like my birth certificate was even like she even the way my middle name was spelled, she was like, yo, your grandma did not write this right. You know, I was sedated. I couldn't.
Oh, so your grandmother gave you that name?
Yeah. Well, it was a spelling that was wrong. It was my original name, but the spelling wasn't even correct on my birth certificate.
So is your last name, is that connected to your birth dad?
So Jones is actually my biological father's last name. So I took his name on when I decided to change my name.
You're carrying Jones now.
Yeah. That was my third name change.
Okay, so before we get to the third name, so I'm very interested in River.
Yeah.
Second name.
Yeah. Dillingham, my mother's husband's last name.
So we're still at the first name.
Celicia. Yep, Celicia Ciciana. I kept
it's still
that.
So that's second name change.
Yeah.
Legally.
So
you legally went and go change the paperwork out in Washington State.
Right. In order to get my diploma.
In order to get so you turn that into school.
Right.
They solidify everything. You get your diploma, high school diploma.
Yeah.
What's next?
Get the high school diploma. I'm about to be just grown and free, figure out what college I want to go to, all this good stuff. And I had actually left home at 16, so before that name change, right? And I had to regain a relationship with my parents, my mother and her husband, because domestic violence had like broke out in the house. And I told you about that, me being the oldest thing, like that kind of complex I had about protection. And I really had an identity crisis because I felt like if I was my mom's son, this wouldn't be going down. I felt like because I was a female, I was looked at like,
there's nothing you can do.
what you gonna do? Yeah,
you're just a girl.
But me being a boxer also from the age 9 through that time, and then being third in the nation, I end up getting
You're third in the nation.
Yeah, I got that's from our weight class. Let's be
that's still good
yes.
though. Yeah, let's not belittle that.
Yes, I wasn't too happy about it because I didn't get first. Boxing comes with this ego mind. Like if you don't be undefeated and win, then it was nice, but it wasn't.
It wasn't what you wanted.
Yeah, I didn't go there for that. That's not what I went there for. But I did, right? So I had earned and gained a certain type of respect as a fighter, right? But the metaphorical sense of fighting is what really I took on. Just being a poet, but being able to look at life in a boxer's mentality and move differently. Spiritually and emotionally because of it, but I couldn't bring myself to fighting this man. I respected him and loved him.
Yeah.
I wanted him good too. So it was conflicting feelings. So I just left. I was like, I just gotta get out.
It's gotta be a lot though.
Just gotta get out of here. Yeah. So I just left. So when I did get the name change, I was still kind of rocky with my mom's husband. Me and my pops was like, we cool, but we kind of rocky right now. We still trying to regain trust and establish relationships. So I'm in and out the house, and I get a call that my parents had sexually abused. Rape was the term they used. My ex-girlfriend.
Your parents did that?
Yo, I wasn't there, but they admitted it. She said it. There's documentation, all kind of stuff. Things happen, right? They apologized to me about it even.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, word up. Word up.
My heart is racing.
Word up.
Because my heart goes out to people who all rape victims, because I was a victim of rape as well. So I just had a moment. All right, go ahead.
Yeah, man. Thank you for saying that, because there's a lot of men who have and won't even. For
sure, yeah.
Dare talk about it.
Listen, I'm vocal about mine now.
Yeah. Take some time, right?
A lot. Took me almost 16, 17 years.
Wow.
Just to even say anything to anybody. So
See, mine, I had practice because I had went through some abuse as a child with cousins and babysitters and things like that, and so that happened, from the age 4 through 12.
How did that affect
and so, interestingly enough, I didn't think it did.
Really?
Yeah, I really didn't think it did. It made my relationship with trusting God and trusting my mother estranged. I didn't know. One of my first situations with a female, she had me put my hand on a Bible and put my other, my right hand up, my left hand on the Bible, and promise, whatever happens tonight, you're not gonna say anything. I didn't know it was about to go down. I'm about 6 or 7 years old, and I'm just like, all right, I gotta listen. So my idea was, my understanding anyway, was that if I didn't do what she asked me to do that evening, I was going to hell. And if I told anybody about what I did that evening, I was going to hell.
So let's pause for a second.
Okay.
Where does I want to jump right back into this though, but I got to ask this question because it ties into what you just said.
Right.
Where does your thought of going to hell come from?
Oh, as a child?
As a child.
What's interesting, because now it's different, definitely different. But as a child, my great-grandfather, Deacon Manning, okay? Deacon Manning, okay? This man is 89 years old this year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that's like my best friend right now, legit. And we talk all the time about everything. Folks been talking to him, do you know River's pregnant? Do you know she changed her name for real? We talk. He knows before anybody else. Right. Y'all get social media info. You don't get the,
you don't get the in and out.
Fresh off the crop.
Exactly.
Yeah, we talk. That's my guy, man. He's been there since I was born in the hospital. You know what I mean? He's my real down since day one. So either way, he had always kept me in the church, right? So a little bit of exposure to that, but I would fall asleep during sermons and be woke and live during, the praise and worship. Yeah. And then as soon as the snacks is gone and, ain't no more mints being passed around, the little caramel candies, I'm out. You got another butterscotch? No? Okay, all right. It's a wrap. So, word up though, my idea was just I remember some story about now that I know the story for real, but I remember somebody being put in flames, and then coming out unburnt. But I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna come out unburnt. I might get burnt. And it's supposed to be internal, like forever. So you're just forever and burning. That just sounds like horrible. Like you just in flames and forever, like abandoned, not loved, not with your family. It just sounded torturous. So you're just in torture for forever. So I'm like, yeah. And after a while, I started to believe, like, yo, this is hell. This is torture. Like, living here is hell. Like, this must be hell. So I want to get to the other side and see what else is out there.
You know where.
Yeah. Show me where heaven is, Now I believe both coexist. I believe it's all right here, and we get to choose to experience it. But as a child, yeah, that was definitely like, I just had this fear of dying, for one, because it's so crazy. But yeah, a fear of that I was just gonna die, and if not immediately, then whenever I did die, it was gonna be horrible, and I'd be disconnected from my family and burning forever. Yeah, that was my true belief.
That's deep.
Yo, where'd I get it from?
I mean, I believe like a lot of us,
bits.
Who grew up in the church, that's our thought. Because mine was pretty much the same in a sense too. Like, it's different now. I look at everything different now. But I believe us growing into a church, especially a predominantly black church that you went to, that's kind of what was pushed towards. Towards. I know for me, it was just like that's what hell was. Like, place fire, brimstone, place you don't want to go. So you got to live right. You got to act right. You got to do right. And the Bible was the cornerstone for everything. Especially as a child, for our grandparents or whomever, maybe, like I said, the deacon who had you in church. Yeah. That's just what it was. So I get it. I really just want to know. So let's jump back into the story. Hands on the Bible.
Yeah, man. So everything under the moon that could have happened with that girl that night. I mean, I got to the point where I was so uncomfortable. I went to the kitchen to get like a sandwich bag to cover my tongue. I didn't realize there's really like female condoms, but I created one. Real life. I mean, I wasn't old enough to know that was a thing. Right. But I said I need something between this. I don't like the taste of none of this, boy. It was Yo, and my pops try to blame my early experiences. Man, this is why you like females. Nah, actually, if anything, this would be why I don't like females. If you only knew, I mean, the toes and everything. There wasn't nothing we did not experience that night. And she didn't do no work, okay? So it's horrible. It was, no, never again, But I've had my experiences since then. But real life, like, with that situation all the way, I mean, there was multiple, with guys, with females. Yeah. Just ongoing throughout my childhood. I thought, it became so normalized, I could have easily been a prostitute because it was just like I exchanged sexual favors to do childlike things. Like if somebody had like a Slurpee machine or the trampoline, or if I wanted to do something the big kids were doing, I couldn't. Like, instead of them asking me, after a while, it became an offer. It didn't even come to a understanding and a realization until I had actually inflicted that same situation on another young man in my family. And my parents like flipped, like, yo, why would you ruin this kid's innocence? Like, yeah. And I was the bad guy, Then we had a conversation later on, like, well, we know where you could have got this from, did so-and-so show you this book, this, that, and the other? And I'm like, well, yeah, but I was scared to talk about anything else about, but it was a whole plethora of experiences. And it wasn't until I was 15 when I decided to finally tell my mom everything, and I had to write it down. And I had been with more than like 16 people before I was 9 years old. Wow. Yeah. And so when I realized that, and at this time I'm in high school, and I'm going to a private school for the first time, and we talking about God and just repentance and all. It's a Catholic school too. Lord have mercy. Shout out to Bellarmine. Bellarmine did me right, but it was deep in the repentance joint, and I was like, I don't want to talk to no random stranger in the box, but I'll tell my mama, I'll go, I'll confess to somebody, Right. So I made the list. It blew my mind. And as I would write one name down, I would remember somebody else and be like, yo, and I remember their names.
Really?
Crazy, yo.
You remember names. I don't remember names.
But a lot of them were family and stuff, and there were people who were around.
And kind of close. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So in the writing of this letter to your mom, what's going through your mind and what's this feeling like? Because
I wanted to die. I was like, yo, I don't even want to live after this. You're gonna either whoop me or I'm gonna live in shame. I don't want to deal with it. Like, I was done. I was like, oh, my life is over.
Yeah, like seriously.
This is the end.
I feel you. I feel you 1,000% because I was in that same predicament. I wrote my mom and dad a letter telling them about everything. Well, I told them verbally about my abuse.
Right.
But as far as like, what happened after the abuse, as far as like, the different men and different women, that was the hard part because I'm feeling like, how you're feeling. Like my life is over, my road is over, like my secret is out.
Yeah.
And so like, as you're writing this letter, like, what's your feeling? That's, how's your heart beating? How's your fingers feeling? Like, are you trembling?
It was so wild because it transitioned. Because at first I was kind of writing for myself, but I'm like, I have to confess it. I have to give this to my mom. So it went from me just getting it out to saying, I got to give this to my mom. So I started talking to her in the letter. And then it transitioned from me just talking about my experiences, but also, why I couldn't live in the house anymore. And, my issues with the whole domestic violence thing. Because my father, my mother's husband, he cried to me about beating my mother. And ask for my forgiveness. So a lot of people would just have the notion that I would have this resentment, and I ain't gonna tell you what happened next, but they have the notion that I would have resentment. There was so much love there and so much communication that I seen the mental illness before I had terminology for depression and anxiety and PTSD. I didn't have the terms.
Now how old were you then?
At the time, I was 15 going on 16.
15 and 16, you're seeing mental illnesses in your family, but you just can't pinpoint it.
Yeah, it's my sophomore year in high school. Yeah. And it was heavy. And it had just been escalating over the years. But at that point, it had just gotten so in our, because my parents would hide even when they had a disagreement. They wouldn't even want to just get rowdy around us. Sometimes we walk in after school or something and hear them a little loud and they would quiet down, like, okay, the kids is here. Well, a few years go by and now we flipping couches and kids is here and we yelling and we calling each other out of names, and I'm like, oh, this is different.
Wow.
Yeah, so it got violent. It got really violent. So that was really but that's why I left. And so when it came to the name change, okay, because that's how we got here, I was still getting comfortable with like being home and feeling at home. I didn't feel like I belonged there, and I wasn't comfortable. My mom pretty much, she kind of tricked me, get me back to the house. She did. She was like, man, your dad wants to see you, this, that, and that. I get there, this man don't want to talk to me at all. I'm like, oh, you played me, Ma? She's like, no, y'all need to talk. I'm like, we don't need to talk about nothing. Unless we about to fight or y'all about to divorce, we don't need to talk.
Dang.
But she just wanted everybody to just like,
So let's take another pause real quick, because that's something that's very conflicting in a lot of families. When you've experienced abuse or seen abuse, it's like there's always somebody who wants to mend somebody back together. And that's happened to me personally. And how do you work with somebody and they're like, because you do mental health coaching now,
right? And
they're in the same situation that you're in, like in that same type of predicament where it's like, somebody wants me to amend this relationship with this person, but I just can't see it. But I'm trying to do it because it's the right thing to do, or it's the godly thing to do, but I just can't do it.
There's a couple things that come with that. How they say like forgiveness is for you and not other people. I used to get on I hated that.
Really?
I hated it.
Why?
I was like, what is forgiving them gonna do for me?
For sure.
Honestly, that was my attitude. And what I recognized was that the harboring of it, I must have read a quote somewhere, and it says something like holding a hot stone and hoping someone else gets burnt, and I'm like, yo, that's heavy.
Holding a hot stone.
Unforgiveness is like holding a hot stone, just a fiery hot stone. I don't know if you ever got them hot stones, but they hot. And you hoping it burns somebody else. Wow. Because you just don't forgive them. So you holding on to it. I'm like, wow. And the more and more I got into the studies of energy and things like that, when you have this stuff, it'll block your blessings. when you're harboring that type of, you're putting it out there in the atmosphere. You know what I mean? You're harboring that type of resentment. So first of all, it's not even about like, mending and making the relationship something, because we don't have control over the relationship.
For sure.
And we don't have control over, because a relationship is two ways. We don't have control over their acceptance of it or not. But making our peace with, okay, there was something that happened here that I disagree with, that doesn't resonate with me, right? But that doesn't make you a bad person. That doesn't make you sick and toxic. That makes the action right here toxic for me, because this is how it influenced me. You may do that same thing with somebody else and they love it and thrive off of it, have a whole different experience with life. But for me, right, this is what it done for me. So now there's boundaries, but I don't have to harbor hate, right? So now the conversation can be, there's a dynamic shift in the relationship, yes, but the relationship doesn't have to not exist at all. Now, if the other person is willing to meet you and y'all figure out how we can still be cordial, that's neither here nor there. It really just depends. But making your peace with the situation and not putting it like, every time I see you, all I can see is the situation.
I need help.
Come on.
I need help, because what you just explained is where I'm currently at. You know, like, it's just hard for me to want to, like, I've gotten better over the years for sure, but it's just kind of like, it's hard for me to see face to face and eye to eye with my abuser.
Right.
And we've had conversations where they went well, smoothly, and we talked about life and updates and stuff like that. And then there's just times where I just don't want to.
Yeah.
And then there's times where when I don't want to, there's like a peak of guilt that sometimes hits me. And that's what I'm working through in therapy right now, is like the guilt factor that I have that I'm associated with when, and not even just that, but just various things.
Yeah, because that's a whole symptom of just what happens.
Yeah.
It's a result. It is a result of it. And part of that, it has nothing to do with at this point, it's not about them and what they did.
For sure.
It's about how you see yourself in that situation, right? Because when you see yourself as like, yo, I'm this strong protector, provider, whoever you see yourself as, but then you look back at that situation, it's like, that does not reflect who I am. It puts me in this vulnerable state. It puts me in this weak. It puts me in like a gullible state. It puts me in whatever you think of yourself in that moment, right? So it's a matter of forgiving that version of yourself. It's a matter of saying, yo, I love that version of myself, and I understand, because sometimes we don't understand, why would I do that? So we're having to, so it's not about the person, it's really about like that inner peace. It's so corny, but it's so true. Like really looking at yourself and saying, yo, do I really forgive myself? Because at some point you have forgiven them enough to communicate with them, but can you go back with that version of yourself, imagine who you were in that moment, and communicate with yourself? And I know that's like some crazy, third person way of living your life, sure. But taking some time to even write a letter, and then you meditate in the response. You write the letter, you ask the questions, you say the things that, I'm frustrated that this happened, and that you held it this way, and that you healed this way, and you hurt this way, and I don't like what it did to me. Because that's really where you're at now. Like, you've gotten past, I don't like that it happened.
For sure.
It happened.
Right. I'm definitely past that.
So you crossed that bridge, Now the next bridge is okay, now it's me. I'm dealing with the aftermath, the debris of the war. So you won the war.
Hardest
you
part.
won the war.
Yeah.
This is a battle. It's not even the hardest. It's just like last rung. It only feels the hardest because you've done so much already, so much work. So now you're kind of just like tired, like you burnt out, but you're not realizing how much muscle you didn't gain. You're not even checking. Like, you ever been to the gym and you just working out.
Yeah.
You don't realize that you've enhanced your ability to do more reps.
Until you look in the mirror.
And take a break. Breathe for a second. Sometimes we just healing. I told some of my clients, yo, go. Come back to me when you're ready. Take a break. Go live life with this new version of yourself. Get to know you on another level. And then let's pick it back up. Sometimes we do so much continuous work that we get to burnout and then get frustrated about being burnt out. You're a human. Yeah, we're natural and supernatural.
For sure.
But did you give your supernatural fuel?
Yeah.
Did you let your natural get the rest you need? Like, give yourself a breather. And then recognize that it's no longer between you and them. This is you really checking what are all the negative things that have came out of you seeing or not seeing yourself. in that situation, and how is that like transitioning into now? Like, what parts of it are still present? You're like, this comes from that. When I see somebody who looks like this, are you still triggered? Are there still things that like bring up the situation, right? And like, how do you disarm those things? It depends on what they are. Because there's a different way to disarm something that's a sound that's a trigger versus something that's a visual thing that's a trigger, and it depends on the person as well. Like, this stuff is so intricate of a process, right? So that's why I really love the one-on-one work, but it is work.
It's a lot of work.
It's a work for a person on the outside to be able to step in and be a part of something that they may be disconnected from, but in all honesty, because of interconnectedness, it's actually a lot easier than it seems to be able to be empathic and feel what you feel.
Yeah.
However, the challenge is now us both learning you to get you through to the other side, right?
Yeah,
it's not about learning the maze. The maze is going to be whatever it is. It might shift and change along the way. But once you know your superpower, once you know, okay, there's the part that pains me about me, then you get over your kryptonite. Yeah, man.
That's deep.
It feels very vague of the answer.
Nah, I don't think it was vague at all. I think it was very insightful.
Thank you. Okay.
Very insightful, and that's like I said, that's the stage I'm in now. And my therapist, she always reminds me that I got to look at myself, and I got to, all the proofs, everything you just said, and it's so hard to really look at yourself in that eye, because it's like, you fought so hard to get to where you are now. And it's
don't do it then. Just turn the lights off. Do it in the dark. Don't even write it out. Turn a recorder on and speak. If you can't handle hearing your voice, then turn a candle on though, instead of having the lights on. When you get out of that moment, that's when you turn the lights on and turn on the mirror and read it to yourself in the mirror. Now that's the hard part. But you just admitting, saying, okay, this is what it really is. Yeah, it's gonna feel deep, but when you get out of it, it's going to be like, that was the easiest part, because it's going to give you so much more than you had to give in that moment. It when they talk about tenfold, doing that type of self-work, when you sit down and you write out, like, this is all of what it is. If it takes 10 minutes, if it takes an hour, just keep writing until you're like, ooh, I felt that. Okay? Keep writing until you just can't, there's nothing else to say. Like, I've said it all. But as you begin to write, it's going to bring up some stuff.
Oh yeah,
it's gonna put you in a place. But this is why I don't know if you ever read Sacred Woman. So Queen Afua, her son now has like a whole nother man's version, but I'm reading Sacred Woman. I'm gonna get the man's version ASAP.
What's it called?
That's what I do not know.
We'll
I apologize.
No, we'll figure it out.
But definitely check that out, because shouts out to them for doing this healing work. Like, she's the type of mother who was like, I'm not even going, like, I'm giving my son spring rolls and stuff to go to school with, and he getting bullied about it. Oh well, you gonna eat healthy, like, as a child. So she been practicing in the health, and now he's a whole grown man, and he's got a whole segment for men's healing as well. And so what's beautiful about like some of her practices, it taught me about a sacred space, about the temple, about just different ways of seeing yourself. And so when you do this work, it's good to, the environment's so important, because it is, I don't even like the word vulnerable. I really don't. I think it's corny. But it is a space where you get naked with yourself, and not everybody's comfortable seeing themselves naked.
That's true.
But once you start to strip off all the things that you're covering up to just make yourself feel better, and you realize that, like, once you can accept this, that's the real feeling good.
Yeah.
That's the real feeling better, because all this other stuff is extra, and honestly, it's a cover up, and it feels, over time, it's like covering up spilt milk. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
it
just get nasty.
Right.
It just get real nasty, and then you become bitter, and you can't really be happy. You just kind of putting on a smile because it looks good, but you don't really feel that way. So when you get to the truth, and you take time to love you in your nakedness that's in body. So when you write, I do suggest this. This is my suggestion. Like, if you could be naked when you write, do that. Do that.
So writing naked, what does that do for the human soul?
Think of what being naked really is. It's a sacred space. Not everybody's invited in. Right? This isn't for the world.
Yeah.
Right? This ain't for your counselor. This ain't for the homies. This ain't even for the spouse. This is for you with you. Now, what's beautiful about the spouse situation, if you do have a partner in healing, I think that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Challenge with that is sometimes folks get into healing, and there's parts of healing that get ugly. If they get ugly together, It's tension.
Yeah, right.
It's little thing, you know, pressure can bust pipes. Pressure can make diamonds. It depends, you know, what kind of people, what the character will show. Okay, so it depends on the character of who you're doing it with. But in all honesty, when you get naked, think about the just metaphorically, even, right? Because this is how I see things, and reflecting from physical to spiritual. And you talk about what this does for your soul. Your soul is literally using this as a vessel, as a tool, right? And so when you're able to be directly connected with the tool that is directly using this source, you know, there's nothing getting in between you. There's nothing, there's no facade, there's no cover up, there's no extra. It's a purity, right? It's a sense of freedom. It's no bondage. It's no facade of any sort, right? And so the closer you can get to your raw, most natural self in the moment that you are healing your raw, most natural self, the better. It just becomes this power that you get to direct, you get to say, right? And once you can see your beauty, because the thing it is seeing your beauty internally and externally. A lot of people think that beauty has this look when honestly we can look at the same person and have totally different opinions.
Yeah.
Like you think that's okay. You know? That's what you like.
Right.
You know, so we've got to be able to recognize and understand that beauty, when they say it's in the eye of the beholder, another corny saying, but it is so true. And so when you love someone, though, sometimes they become a little bit more beautiful. The more and more you love them, it's like, you're not so bad looking after all.
Right.
You know, you're kind of cute, you know? So the same thing happens with yourself. It's like, yo, because I got some stubby toes. I don't like my toes. But I tell you, when I started doing this healing work, I was like, kind of cute. A little corny, you know, like stuff is a little corny, that's still attractive, you know, still, you know, I can work with that. So that type of love, because I truly believe love is the ultimate healing tool, right? Like you can have all these other things, you know, making your peace, having fun, creativity, all of these things that will enhance the healing.
Yeah.
Love is really, truly what does the healing. Right? That does the work. Everything else is additional. So when you're naked, you can't avoid loving yourself. You see yourself. And you can't avoid seeing yourself stripping away all of the things that make you feel protected from you. Why are you protecting yourself from yourself? You know, what do you, well, you know, this is a sense of protection. You know, this is a sense of covering up what's sacred. But when you're in a sacred, intimate space, be as sacred and intimate as you can be. And that allows the soul to just vibrate and illuminate at that level. You know, the frequency just, it's something about the vibration when you're in these type of spaces. It just heightens, you know. And in certain cultures, they do it together. This is not a, you have to do it alone situation, right? Right. So it depends on the environment for you personally of like, where can I be the most naked internally and externally?
I've got to be like, sometimes I think I haven't healed enough, but I think I have, because everything you just said, and like the whole just sitting with yourself naked, like I tell people all the time, if wearing clothes wasn't illegal, I'd walk around nude.
This guy here, we're going to see you on a nude beach next year.
For sure.
It's a wrap.
I would definitely do it because it's just, I feel so free, because I used to be so ashamed of my body because of what happened to me.
Right.
Just taking off my shirt, or, you know, my thick thighs and my thick legs. And my grandma's like, you got thick thighs, they're just like me. And that used to bother me. And it's just like, now it's to the point where we go to the beach, I'm the first person with I can't wait to get there.
You have to celebrate that. You can't overlook like that, like, okay, finally I'm here. I should have been here. Whatever thoughts coming up, you have to celebrate that. That is amazing. These are things you got to take note of who you are, who you've become intentionally, right? Looking at all the things that you've gone through, where you could have stayed, where you could have declined and gotten worse. Because a lot of people, if they were feeling that way about their body, right? There's some things like you really just can't change about your body. Like it just is what it is. Yeah. that causes people to go through drug abuse and doing things that are just like, having tendencies to just lie about everything, having tendencies to steal stuff, having tendencies to not believe it. You can tell them you love them all day long, but they're not going to receive it. They reject love. They reject support. They reject leveling up because, in all honesty, it's like, I don't fit and belong there. That's fake. It's not real.
Right.
It may be real for somebody else, but that's not my life.
Right.
Can't accept it, right? So what you have done is you have broken a mold. That's what they call generational curses, right? We have generational habits, and we have a habit and a tendency of passing down.
I just learned about that in therapy probably last month.
Really? Yeah.
It's called she had called it like the familial something, but pretty much along the lines of the same exact thing that you're talking about. Like, it's just like your family unit itself, not like us as the human beings, but our family unit itself has its own traumas that get passed down that we pick up, that we have to somehow break apart from.
Right.
And that's where that was part of my healing process as well in therapy, was breaking away from my family's generational curses that's been there, not just the trauma that I've gone through. I had to go through the stuff I've gone through my family, and it's just like, dang, you really helped me realize how much healing I've been doing.
And can I say something? No shots fired at anybody in their, in their career, and this is what they do. But there is this is river logic, all right? River logic. There is no such thing as breaking away. There is no such thing as cutting off. There is no such thing as separation, because you've been through, this is your experience. That experience don't just get cut like soul ties. You can cut the soul tie all you want. I believe in alchemy.
Okay, break it down.
When you alchemize something, you ever read The Alchemist?
No.
Ooh, Paulo Coelho. Now, Will Smith put me on with that one. Not personally, I just be taking on all kind of mentors and brothers and aunties.
As we all do.
Yeah. But in a sense, what happens is the alchemist can touch anything and turn it to gold, touch anything and transform it, right? Someone who is an alchemist, they used to call women who did jewelry work alchemists, and that was like it was illegal for women to do, you got all these ladies, especially in Atlanta, all these ladies making all these jewelries, handcrafted with the metals and the coppers and the real stones, and that was considered a sorcery. Okay? Why? Because you're taking something from its original state and you're transforming it into something else, and not just anything else, something more valuable. Something that really stimulates people's minds.
Yes.
When you can do stimulation in a human, right? It's one thing to stimulate an animal or a cat or something, get something excited.
Yeah. Right.
When you stimulate a person, we start to look at that as a magic, as its power, right? Which is why seduction is like one of the top, it's up there. It's up there when you talk about magic, okay?
Right.
When you talk about something magical. So when you're able to look at your experiences and transform them, because that's what you're doing. It's not that they don't exist anymore. It's that you said, yeah, these thighs is nice. I ain't about to just give them to anybody. I'll tell you that right now. Ain't nobody about to just take them, okay? All right, you tried it. All right, you tried it. You had your round. I'm in a different place. You know what I mean? And so what you've done is you transformed. You've owned yourself. This don't belong to you, bruh. This don't belong to nobody. I'm going to give it to who I choose to share it with, right? And so when that shift happens, you now carry yourself in a way where it's beautiful. You carry yourself in a way where it's attractive, right? There's no more sluggish holding yourself down about it. It's like, yo, that's fly. Whatever's going on over there is nice, because you've done the work to transform your perception of yourself, and so now you project a different energy, and it's because you've done the alchemy. No, you didn't cut it all away. That's why some stuff is still bothersome.
Oh yeah,
because it's there.
Right.
I had a counselor tell me that there was no such thing as healing, because what I went through is what I went through. And we hadn't got to that, so that's the river part of life. But that's where river came from. But see, I went to counseling because of that transition. So we'll get to that when we get to that. but they told me that that healing wasn't possible because, I'm gonna learn how to cope really good. I'm gonna learn how to get by and live day to day. I'm gonna learn how to manage it and deal with it better. But I will never be able to erase what happened. There's some truth to that.
Yeah, for sure.
Drove me nuts because if I said, "Yo, if I'm just gonna have to learn how to live with it,"
that's driving me nuts again.
I don't want to live, man. If that's the case, okay. And so I'm like, God, you got me here for a reason. You best to show me why. What am I doing here? Okay, explain, please. So I went on a mad mission, but getting that kind of terminology, like you really got to recognize, and I think just the understanding of it helps with the healing. When you understand, like, now this doesn't get completely ripped away, but I do get to take some pieces do get recycled. Some pieces do, like, they don't have to stay, right? But the fact of the experience is there, solid. Like, it happened, right? You alchemizing and disconnecting even from needing to feel that, right? Needing to re-experience that, which is wild because for me, what I've done in my healing process is I'll go back to certain experiences and, like, even in the feeling of it, I'm like, yo, that was whack, but I'm not there anymore. It's like I've been able to separate not so much the situation, but who I was in it, like the past from the present, right? Even though it's all connected, right? It's all this oneness. I've been able to say, I can recognize who I am in this very moment, where I used to have, and I think that's what the PTSD is, right? Where I used to have an issue being able to tell the difference between a past experience and my present moment. The mind is so powerful. You can think of something and just go through reactions like it's going on right now. So I've been able to heal in a way where what has happened, I could look at the whole thing, visualize it, which I've done, right? Writing books and all this kind of stuff.
Right.
I've had to really sit down and just, hear this is for the public. This is me just going through therapy. Okay, separating the pieces, and I'm at a point where I can honor where I'm at. I can even feel where I'm going. Feel a peace I've never felt before. See myself in places I don't even know the name of, and real life, like with my past, I can look at it and I've wired myself in a way where it doesn't physically. Now, if I wanted to, I could go there. So I was like, I'm gonna do a movie or something, man. This is good education. It's good education right here, yo. But yeah, learning to alchemize is a big deal. So I don't want to put too much time on that. But like, just to. Because sometimes we'll blame ourselves for, like, why can't I break away from this piece? Well, because that piece is something you've got to transform, not cut away. Yeah.
Dang, River. I didn't know you was that deep.
It's work, man. This is work. I've been at this for like 10 years. It's crazy. I'm so young. I'm a little baby in there. Because all my friends like in their 60s, and they just like, yes.
All your friends in your 60s?
Yeah, man. All my friends who do this work, I got a couple of friends who's like, late 30s, early 40s and stuff. But for the most part, they in their 60s. And there's a couple of them that just like that I rock with because they speak the language I like to talk, so it's like that's the level that I've been in. But I was such a studious person, when I went through my paralyzation of being clinically depressed, I just studied, which is really dope because like it was the most investment I ever did, like pretty much 2 years of just.
And what did you study? Like,
everything.
What drew you to want to say, okay, I've been diagnosed with this clinical depression? A lot of people, not a lot, some people, should I say, would take it and say, okay, this is my cop-out now.
Right. You get a pass.
I get a pass now. There are some people who will say, okay, they're kind of stuck in between, like, I want to use this as my cop-out, but I also want to break through it. And then there's people like yourself who say, you know what, I need to understand what they're saying I am. Because I am is a powerful statement. Yeah. And if they're saying I am clinically depressed, then what is the clinical piece of it? What is the depressive piece of it? How do they combine one another? That's a very bold thing of an individual to do.
It didn't start there. It evolved into that. After I found out that my parents had abused my ex-girlfriend, when I went to address them about it, it happened to me that same night with my mother, her husband, and my godmom, their girlfriend.
Time out. Take audible.
All
Take a break.
Yeah.
So it happened to his girlfriend. You confront your parents about it.
Word up.
And then it happens to you plus one. How are you feeling in that moment? And then how are you feeling upon reflecting on it? Because from the sound of your voice, you've done a lot of healing work.
Whew. Probably you knew.
And, another follow-up question I want to ask you, I just want to ask it, so we just kind of put it out there into the atmosphere. It's just, what's the relationship today with these individuals?
That's so wild. At the time, I was still mentoring. Even in the midst of it, it went on for a couple months, and I would still get up and go to the schools and do my work as a mentor, studying community resources and trying to understand what the heck is going on at home without being too direct about it.
So you being indirect, okay.
Yeah, looking for help for a couple months. But I had got to a place where even during the things happening, like that first night, I had zoned out, and I was praying to God to teleport me. I was like, yo, if Chris Angel can do it,
then so can I.
Yes, God, I believe. I got faith of a mustard seed and then some. That faith was bigger than a mustard seed that day, okay? I'm like, God gonna get me out of here. So I closed my eyes, and they're talking, and it sounded like I was underwater, that echoey kind of sound, and they're talking to me, but I'm having a conversation with God. I'm out of here. And then they start calling my name, all the nicknames. Cece, Cherry, Lil Mama, Celicia. Boy, I snapped up. How your parents kind of say your first name.
Yeah. Like, oh, I'm in trouble.
What I do.
Yeah.
It snapped me out. And so that's where the trigger from Celicia came from. So eventually, I had to do a name change. I didn't know it was going to be River. But the thing is, while it was happening in that moment, I not only felt like I wanted to escape, I was concerned about I was so confused. I didn't recognize who my parents were, right? So I was concerned about their well-being, their state of mind.
Right.
My father in particular, because now, this man raised me, you know what I mean? And I used to fight people, like legit fist fights over folks saying that that's not your real pops.
Right.
Like, I wish you would say that's not my real pops, right? So he told me that night, he was like, well, I'm not your real dad anyway. Never in life in 18 years, or 17 going on 18. But yeah, never. So I was just baffled, what? How did we get here? Right? But when you talk about narcissism, mind manipulation, the drugs that help, the type of drug it is to get on a high of sexual abuse, and knowing that, these people who do this thing, I strongly believe him himself went through some things. He didn't trust the church. He didn't want us going on me and my siblings, when I say us, going on a bus to the church, because he was like, no, I know what them pastors do to kids. Y'all not going with everybody else, right? Yeah. So it wasn't until
a statement like that, it pours out pain.
Right. Yeah. Right. So it's if you believe that, what happened to you for you to believe that?
For sure.
This is right, because that's your stone cold belief.
Yeah.
Not everybody believes that. In fact, I would say some of the stuff I went through, and just little stuff I stopped smoking cigarettes at 9. I started at 7, stopped at 9. Folks were like, "Whoa!" I'm like, that ain't even a half, But
okay, that story.
Yeah, man. So it would blow my mind. But the thing is, if it's not in your reality, you're not going to have a belief system for that, right? Which is why I got so big on speaking about the mental health aspect, because some people think that folks just be making up stuff all you gotta do is just be happy. Okay.
Right.
So yeah, it's a choice. You just want attention. I could have got attention for rapping, for boxing, all kind of stuff. I didn't need extra attention. I had enough. Yeah. Thank you. So there was a lot of confusion for me, because I wanted to help them. I wanted to help myself. Right. I lost my sense of purpose, because as my mother's eldest child, and she would come to me, he would come to me, and they're looking to me for answers. So it was they prepared me to go looking for answers, because they're asking me. They thought very highly of me. Honestly, my mom's husband used to tell me, "Oh, you're gonna be the one. You're gonna be amazing. Just just go ahead, hurry up and put your pops on. He would just say stuff like that to me all the time. So they blow my head up, but it was so weird because when you deal with narcissistic parenting, now that I know, like there's always a child who is kind of put on this pedestal of expectation, and you would think they have it the easiest, but let me make a mistake or a challenge. I just disfaced the family name or something, I lost a boxing match. You're not my child. Who is this? What is that? He came to my practice. It wasn't even a real fight. This is me practicing with the boys on the team who've been boxing for years. Okay, this is like my first week of sparring. He comes in, sees me sparring, leaves out mid-match. I get home. He's like, yeah, I'm about to watch that. That was whack. Like, I'm not supporting you fighting like that. When I tell you the pressure was on to just be... Right. So in the moment of them, this abuse and the whole like, oh, I'm not your real dad anymore, all that kind of stuff, like, and then even telling me like, yo, I never steered you in the wrong direction. I wouldn't lead you in the wrong direction now, would I? Mind manipulation. Like the Bible says you should obey your parents.
Ooh, child.
When I tell you the scripture was used, the scripture, right? Now I'm not knowing that because if I would have knew the word, it then goes to say how the parents
should come on
should guide their children, train them upright, not wrong. And then it talks about the full armor of God directly after that. Boy, I got to that word, I said, now had I known this then, it would have been like Jesus and the snake or whoever he was talking to in the forest, and they was just going back and forth, and he's like, actually, that's not all that God said. I could have had that response, but I wasn't prepared. I was ill-equipped when it came to my power of the tongue, so I'm just taking whatever, and then my parents. So now I got them on a pedestal, and my parents, I'm just like, yo, whatever you say. What's really wild, too, is that I was crossfaded that night. We had smoke because they like, oh, we owe you an apology. You want to hit this? Yeah, you owe me an apology. That means it really happened. Yeah, I'm gonna hit that. And then we get to the studio, and now we're drinking, and the conversation's getting more intense and more intense. And now you physically touching me. Yeah, I'm a little lost. But the thing was, I remembered like so many details, down to the type of bottle of liquor they had was my choice of liquor. If they were gonna get that big of a bottle, it would have been like some Gold Slaughter. Not no Bacardi Silver. That's what I like, and I like to put a little juice in it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you're not gonna get my choice of drink.
Yeah.
You would have went with some dark liquor. You would have got some Hennessy. What I mean? Yeah. Some top shelf for real. You wouldn't have got this huge gallon. I don't know what it was. It seemed like a gallon. It was humongous. So I'm like, yo, this is a setup, but I didn't realize that in the moment. But in hindsight, when I got alone, when I got into study mode, that's what we're getting to. I was able to reflect, and I was like, yo, like they planned this out? Like this whole thing was planned out? And so in the midst of, I'm feeling like confused, man. Confusion is like at the top of it because I honestly see them differently than what they're showing me, period. I don't know these people. I don't know how my supportive, caring, loving, like go to bat for me parents can now be in the same shoes as the abusers I finally had the guts to tell them about, and tell me that it's best for me, tell me that they're teaching me something, tell me that they're protecting me from other people doing this to me. And then he would tell, my mom was gone at the time, and she came back, and he's like, yeah, and your mom said it was okay, like that was supposed to make me feel better about it, like he got my mom's okay. So what did you say to her to get her to just be in alignment with this, like this made sense? And now we're talking about, well, back in the olden days, kings and queens, how do you think people got multiplied? They had to be with their families. You think Adam and Eve wasn't sisters? I mean, just all kind of, I'm like, yo, I don't know, but what I do know is that this is not for me, right? Because even if that was the case, who said I wanted to be sexually engaged with you? Right.
Like, if I had my choice.
This was my interest. Okay? Right. I'm not feeling you like that, sir. So, even then, so... When I began to, when I left the place, and I only left because I would have stayed, but my little sister was like 4 years old at the time. She knocks on the door, and I'm in the room with Pops, with my dad, and I realized, like, even though I'm not saying that it's okay, I'm showing it's okay. I'm leading by example that this is all right. So that messed me up that day to the point where like I'm getting ready to pack up the little ones because I had two younger siblings. My My godmom have a few younger kids. My mom have a few young kids. So we loaded in the house, about 7 of us, and the 2 little ones was home. Everybody else is at school at the time. This is how I know a couple months went by, because this started in the summer. School's in session now, okay? But I'm getting them dressed. They're like 3 and 4 years old to go to the school where I mentor at. We're gonna walk up there, and he sleep on the couch. The gun's on the table. I'm like, yo, I could take him out, and we can go on about our business for the day, and it'd be self-defense, whatever. That's like, this is the type. I'm like, yo, I could just do, but it just didn't set right with me.
Yeah.
One, me being a murderer, I don't know how that gonna fit.
Right.
But then, like, I love this guy. Like, real life. Like,
yeah.
Like, I wouldn't want no harm to come to him. Was it a thought? Yes, because I'm like, yo, I want to put into all of this. You seem miserable. You're in your misery. I don't like what's going on here. I don't want it to happen to nobody else. So this is one way people would handle this. But the gun being there help with the idea, But I'm like, nah, that's not what that gun's sitting on that table for, man. Don't do it. But it was a thought. And what's crazy is when stuff had happened to my ex, other people were telling me, oh, we about to go take him out. And I'm going to bat for this guy. You better not go shoot my pops.
Yeah.
Man, I grew up with him. And I don't care. That's my dad. Like, I am going to bat for these folks. Part of me in disbelief that they could, like, there's no way it could have just went down how you think it went down. Like, something had to happen. Like, there had to be something else. And nothing gives it an okay and it's all good. But I don't think they would have just aggressively, violently. Like, I don't know, man. Like, I had to give some type of room for the love that I have for them, for seeing them being how I seen them, period. But this is the thing. We get so caught up in how we see people, it goes over our head like who they are. Right? We idolize and we romanticize about what we want people to be. And we think we love them when we really just love the idea we have of them. Mm. And I had to come to terms with that. I love my mother. I love her husband. I love my godmom. I don't agree with you to the degree of who you are as a person outside of this title that I've given you. You're a whole nother person. Somebody else doesn't know you as mom. Somebody knows you as your name. Somebody knows you as who you showing yourself to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I had to start understanding that people carry multiple sides of themselves.
Yeah.
So I ended up leaving the house because of that situation with my little sister. I finally left. I got help from them. And my cousin told me too. She was like, girl, you helped me get an apartment. Why don't you have your own place? I'm like, you're right. I had been house to house, couch surfing, all this, and I didn't see myself as homeless. So I give that resource to somebody who's really out here and doesn't have any help at all. And passing up on the fact that, like, yo, you're out here too, yo. Yeah. So I finally took advantage of the community resources. It was this dope program called, it was the Youth Young Adult Shelter. Big ups to them too. I can't even remember the name right now. That's wild. Long story short, there was a program in the community that helped youth and young adults get into housing. Now the wait list was like 6 months to a year. I just so happened to call the hotline that is it's like a random people, like there's no caller ID, nothing like that. I am talking to somebody who has mentored me in the community, don't even know it, and she goes, Cece, and I'm like, oh, you know me, I don't know you, and I done told you too much. I'm like, who's this? She's like, yo, just come to the office tomorrow, and we're gonna figure this out. And within it took a little over a month. So I noticed stuff went on because the whole time I was living there, it was going on. They tried to tell me when I left, like, it didn't go on for that long. It was only a week or 2 weeks. I'm like, yo, I was not that drugged.
Right.
Like, we done went from summertime to the kids in school to I'm on a waiting list to get up out of here. Yeah, we've been at this for a minute. And so I moved into this place, and that's when I wasn't diagnosed at the time, but I had nightmares. When I woke up, I would think I was at the house with them. I couldn't open my eyes, I couldn't speak, and I would try to get help. And physically, like, my brain, something was disconnected. I got to figure out what it's called. I learned it one time and it didn't lost, but scientifically what happened was the cells in your brain that communicate with your body to move, like when I say I want to grab this, then something in my brain tells my hand to move, and it happens not even simultaneously but so fast that you think it's happening at the same time. Your brain has to communicate with your body for you to be able to use it, period. I could not communicate with my body. I would wake up and be stuck.
Okay, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that. It's not sleep paralysis. It's something similar to that, though. Yeah. Where it's like you see what's going on, but it's like
being in a coma in a way.
Yeah, it's like awake. It's like your outer body experience where you're looking down at yourself, but you can't tell yourself to like get up.
Yeah.
You can't tell yourself to move the right arm or the left arm or the pinky toe, whatever it may be. You're just pretty much just paralyzed in a sense.
Right.
Yes.
Right. And so when I would catch an ability to move, a lot of times I'd be in my head, of course, because that's all I could do. And I wowould talk to God. I'd be mad. I'd throw fits. I'd be crying. I'd go through all the many emotions of grief because I'm now grieving my family. That like after it's been now. You asked me to. It's been a decade. It's going on 11 years since the last time I spoke to my mother.
Wow.
Including my siblings and her husband and my godmom, and I'm finally getting reconnected with a few of the siblings that have aged out of the house, and it's beautiful and disheartening at the same time because they're not where I want them to be as far as the healthy relationships and the healthy lifestyle and all this kind of stuff. And I'm not in position to be like, yo, here's a whole nother new lifestyle. I'm on my way, but we ain't there yet. So it's like, even when I do give to them, I've got to be so disciplined, not even just for them, but for me. But now I'm realizing it's in this position because if you give and give and give and give and give and they leech, you have now trained them not to, like, when you're gone, then what? Right? And so I'm really like, I'm doing my best not to disable them, and it's a tough lesson with the love. But I found myself, before I even got counseling, realizing like something's wrong with me. Like I can't function. There was days I wasn't eating and wasn't using the restroom, like legit just in the bed, bruises on my body from sitting, like I'm just here. And eventually, like, I would get up and I'd have the TV, I have my phone. I'm not calling people, but I'm on YouTube and I'm watching Oprah's masterclass. Blew my mind because it's all these people who are just like, because she had a thing called Sunday School.
Yeah, yep. Mm-hmm.
Super Soul Sunday.
Super Soul Sunday, yep. Mm-hmm.
Woo! Super Soul Sunday. It's still popping. And that would just blow my mind. So I didn't really care for cable, but I wanted that channel. Yeah. And it was so inspiring. One thing that I had come to terms with was that no one has my story. So how I'm supposed to know I can get through this? Like, I'm hearing all these. I mean, I think Mary J. Blige had something pretty close,
Yeah. She was up there with you.
Yeah. I was like, dang, Mary. Okay. We see why you don't cry no more.
Right.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah, but like, word up though, like I've seen a lot of stories, a lot of people, the polo guy, all kind of folks, a lot of athletes, like, and I never heard my experience. So I was like, how am I going to get through this? And like, nobody goes through this. This is not normal. Like, this is not, because some of the stories were just so close, but just not it, Mm-hmm. I'm like, okay, God, you get me through this, I'll share. Yeah. Now, when I did get through it and I was no longer paralyzed, I'm like, yo, I had to been crazy to make that promise. But people will start asking me questions and I start talking, and before you know it, it's like they're just confirming how useful this is. Mm-hmm. To the point where I'm just going to say it. A counselor told me time heals all. And I was so desperate for a solution. I went home, got the clock, put it right next to my bed, watched that clock like eventually I'm going to see enough hours, seconds, and minutes. And it's going to be enough time that will heal it all. Mm. I mean, I was like, because after a certain point, I was like, oh, I've tried everything else. Yeah. There must be something I'm just like intellectually not connecting with here. Maybe it's deeper than what I understand. Maybe it's really just that simple, mm-hmm. but I'm not patient enough. Yeah. So I said, I'm going to watch this clock and enough time going to go by. But one day, like the ticking, like I lived on base, on a military base, and it felt like it was revving up like this. It was so like anxiety wrenching, you know, I just felt like, yo, it was I was anticipating some big boom or something, you know. It's just that kind of like when you're on the edge of your seat of a scary movie kind of thing. Like, so one day I was like, I'm hearing it, you know, there's no other noises in the house, the roommate's gone, and it's just this tick of the second hand. And I started to just get rage and enrage and enrage, and I could feel it just boiling up, and I'm about to scream. And when I scream, I'm in shock. Like, yo, I just screamed. What was that about? Oh, I don't believe that time heals all anymore. I don't believe it. It's not healing nothing. I get angry. I start throwing stuff around my room. I'm snatching stuff off the walls. Yo, show me why I'm here, damn it. Yelling at God. As soon as I said, damn it, though, I stopped. I'll tell you, bro, I was like, I just cussed at God. I'm looking for lightning to strike me down.
This life might be over.
Yeah, it's a wrap. But then I realized, I was like, yo, the worst that could happen is for life to be over. I'm like, that actually don't sound too bad.
Right. You know what, matter of fact.
Yeah, forget the just show me I'm here. Yeah, damn it, you know. So now I'm just repeating, and I'm just being completely rebellious.
Yeah.
Going nuts, man. And I flip my mattress up, and I'm punching it, and I'm giving it all these combos, and, you know, just going ham. And before I know it, I get exhausted to the point where I slam down. I'm like, yo, this is the deal. You done took my uncle out in his sleep. I want to go just like that. Peaceful. So now I wrote this book called From Painful to Peaceful, damn it. Because as soon as I woke up that next day, first of all, the lights were so bright like these, like I thought I was in heaven because it was just bright, like the sun was beaming through the blind.
I've made it.
Yes, I done gave the pearly whites, you know. Pearly white cakes, you know. I was so happy, and then I heard planes and cars going by and engines, and I just got mad, like, they ain't got no planes in heaven.
I'm still here.
Ain't no honking in heaven.
Right. This ain't what I read about heaven. This ain't it.
I'm mad instantly. I was like, okay, all right. So I'm gonna come see you myself then. I get up, I grab my keys, I'm about to go hop in the car. I'm trying to figure, I was like, wait, hold on, before I leave, like, what did dead people do before they get dead? Like, what they do? I should write a letter to somebody. Maybe I should, all my stuff is here. I'm gonna give my boxing medals to this brother. I'm gonna give my car to this sister. I'm gonna give I'm giving away stuff. I don't have a lot of stuff, just sentimental things, you know. Okay, I'm gonna give all my books to this sister, and I'm gonna give all my clothes to this. You know, I'm like, yo, legit writing out who's getting what, and I look around my room like, okay, they coming here to get this letter. This room cannot be looking like this. So I start cleaning up a little bit. Spiritually, emotionally, like there's something, especially even as women being nurturing, like when you're about to birth something, when something new's coming in, you start to shift things around, you clean up, you make room for it, right? I'm not thinking none of this, I'm just like, let me just get it together, but that's a process that we go through. So I'm doing a lot of spiritual practices that I'm not realizing. I'm writing things out, I'm having conversations with God. Now, I may have cussed that guy, but I'm communicating and I'm asking for an answer, and I'm literally really wanting an answer. Yeah, I'm expecting an answer. Not even just wanting it. I'm like in true belief that, yo, you about to talk to me. you about to come talk, you about to come get me something. I'm getting a response. Yeah. Because I'm talking to you with that type of mustard seed faith. So the next day I go to this school by accident. I'm on my way to drive myself up a bridge, but the school is on the way, and I'm like, I can't just not say bye to this teacher who's been holding it down since the beginning of this stuff. That's where I was going to go volunteer and mentor and stuff in her classroom. And so I'm like, I'm gonna at least go spend one more day with her. That'd be my little good deed before I go buy my ticket into heaven kind of thing. I get in there, there's nothing for me to do because they're doing end of course exams.
Oh, so you just watching people.
Boring, yo. I was so over it. I was like, yo, this is the worst last day ever. Like,
why does it feel like a movie right now?
Yo, it's gonna be, man. You know, I'm about to get with Ernestine. We're about to get some green lit popping over here. Yeah, real life.
Needs to be.
Yeah, it's happening. So I'm finally ready, you know. But I'm sitting in there like just bored. I'm like, yo, this is whack. And then the bell rings, the class switches. I get up. I'm like, let me just organize papers by the printer. You know, let me do something because she ain't got nothing for me to do. Student comes in and said, hey, Miss Hyman, what do you have planned for us today? This chick looks around the room, you know, she's looking at her desk all scattered with all these papers. She grading. And she looks up at me, she goes, Cece's gonna teach the class. And I'm thinking I ain't in no shape or form to be talking to no children's about nothing, okay?
Right.
Like, so I'm looking at her with this look like, what you mean?
Right.
I don't think that's a good idea. She said, oh, you'll do great. You know, you've been through high school. You know how to use community resources and stuff. You know, you've been a student athlete. You know, just tell them about your experiences, things that you wish you would have learned before graduating high school. I said, oh, we could talk about before graduating high school. Now, we could talk about that. I was
Easy.
Like, yeah, that's nothing. Yeah, student athlete. Yeah, let's talk about it. I get up there, start talking to these students. And I was just introducing myself. I didn't think much of it, right? Mm-hmm. By the end of the class, folks who had been, she had college-bound students, so they had been together for a few years. She had to close the door during the conversation because it got so deep. By the end of the class, folks was talking that hadn't talked before. People was crying. People like asking for advice with their relationships with their parents, with relationship with their friends. And I'm like, yo, who solidified me to answer this stuff? But I'm giving them my, you know, this is my opinion, my experience. This is what I think, being as biased as possible. Like I don't want to put too much of my opinion on it, but here's some things you should think about, right? Like I'm already like I've been a big sister. I've been a mentor already. So it's not that these skills are so far removed. I just wasn't valuing myself when I walked in there. I wasn't looking at the things that a lot of times when we see where we want to be, we ignore where we've been. We ignore. That's why I said you have to celebrate who you are and who you become right now, because that's the vehicle that's getting you there. Mm-hmm. You know, getting upset about what could have been and all of that, like that doesn't get you anywhere. But when you can honor who you've become, because there's somebody like them students who's in a position you were 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years ago, wishing that where you're at is even a reality for them.
Yeah.
And they've never seen it. So you're now this living, walking testimony of like, yo, it's possible. If they can do it, I can do it kind of thing. And I was in that position and didn't realize it, right?
Yep.
And so straight up, they get done with the class. She's writing hall passes for him. And I'm like, yo, she never write hall pass. Like she's letting them stay past the bell. Doors closed. All the other students for the next class is locked out, okay? And they get up. They're scattered around her desk getting these passes, but then they started one by one lining up to give me a hug on the way out the door. Not only did that shift like how I felt, right, as if the conversation wasn't enough, one of the students towards the end of the line was like, Miss, are you going to be here tomorrow? Because I didn't get to finish saying everything I had to say. And I'm thinking, I'm not supposed to be nowhere tomorrow.
Right.
Like, this is supposed to be this is my ticket. You know, I did extra work today. Okay, this is beyond what I thought I came to do. So I got a meeting with God, bro. Right. So you're going to have to just get that from somebody else. Yeah, I don't know who you're going to talk to, but ain't going to be me. You know, but then I'm like, the line is being held up, and I'm like, I could spare one more day. I look over at the teacher. She's like, I'm like, I could be here tomorrow. We do the class the next day with just them, just to follow up with them. Other students in other class periods are jealous.
They've been talking.
They get a guest speaker and we don't. She's like, yo, if you could be here for the end of the year, because we were just gonna watch movies and they was gonna do, work from other classes. I'll let you, do your thing and do like your shadow work and I'll help you if you don't have a curriculum or anything like that. Like we can put something together and whatever supplies you need, I got you. Like if you're available, the class is yours to the end of the year. Before all this happened, right? Now, let's just talk about the fact that led to a summer gig. And then the city paying me what she paid me in a few weeks for an hour. 1 hour. What I made in a few weeks, the city gave me for a 1 hour workshop.
Dang.
Okay? Oh, my life had changed. And then I'm like, okay, I'm going to take this money and I'm about to go get certified. So that's when I became like the cognitive behavioral therapist. Yeah. I didn't like how all the therapy jobs were going because a lot of them were like, yo, we going to need this pill to balance out the chemical. And then when people don't take the drugs, you got to put down that they refuse and they're not, being, what they call like subordinate. It's just, I was not filling the jobs. And so I just went to go help people in the GED class. I was like, I'm not going to do this stuff. Like I'm good. So, but yes, I went back to my students and then the youth and young adult shelter opened up. That became a career. And that's where I had the conversation with the kids on like, yo, I wanted to be a rapper, and I went to Atlanta. So that was a transition. But all of this had came from me saying, just show me why I'm here, damn it, and meaning it. Meaning it, asking.
You got it.
It was quicker than Amazon Prime, man. I tell you, next day delivery.
Next day delivery, you got
I'm on my way to the bridge, and just intuition said, "Nah, pull over. There's no way you're going out without saying goodbye to that woman." Okay. And I try to reason with myself of why it didn't make sense. It'd be a good ticket. Buy yourself into heaven. I had no idea I was buying myself another now 11 years of my life.
Yeah.
It's wild, yo. And all this is kind of happening back to back. I didn't spend a lot of time to heal. So in my helping others from places I've been, I still needed help for where I was at and where I was trying to go.
Right.
I still wasn't the most... While I'm teaching this class, I had 2 ponytails in my head. I went home and cut off, and it was the most uneven thing. The barber was closed in the morning, so I couldn't get to him before the class started.
Yeah.
So I thought I was going to get it, fixed in the morning. I was like, it's okay, I'll get it fixed on the way to work. The barber was closed. I was like, oh, I'm about to go in here. Look, high school students, they're going to clown you. And they was clowning, but once the class started, it was so engaging. It was like, it was no more picking fun and all that. Mm-hmm. I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting to hear some drama all day long. Right. But they had loved the message so much. They had engaged so much that it was like, that meant nothing. But I was going nuts, yo. Like, I don't want to look like my mom while I'm doing it. I was still healing. Mm-hmm. And yet still had something valuable to offer.
Yeah. There's this, I don't know if it's a Japanese tradition or Korean tradition where they take broken pots. And what they do is they put the pot back together with gold. And it becomes more valuable than it once was.
Speak a word, yo.
And for people like you and I who have been through situations like such, it's like, I believe situations break us, but I believe God pulls us back together with gold mold to make us more valuable. And you just showed everybody who's watching this episode from today until infinity that we're more valuable after the breaking.
Come on.
And we got to look ourselves in the mirror, have these naked conversations with ourselves to see the value. And you showed not just the audience of the viewers who are going to watch this, you showed me, you showed the inner me and the outer me. All in just an hour and 22 minutes. And there's so much more. So much more of River. We didn't even get to how you changed your name to River.
It's in the book, From Painful to Peaceful, damn it.
So now I got to go read the book. Give us a little bit.
Okay, listen.
Of how River came about.
I told you I was studious, right?
Yes.
I wanted an element because I got to being a super nature freak once I started healing. I'm like, I need all the nature I can get. I'm going to name myself an element. Water scares me. Real life, because there's just stuff you don't know what's going on in there, man. You can't see how deep it is. It's everywhere. Right. It's in us. Surface, it's in the world. Right. We need it. We have to have it. It's everywhere. Like, what is water? Is that God? So I look at water like this unfigureoutable thing, like more unfigureoutable than electricity. And so naming myself Water sounded corny. Like, I don't want to be called Water. That's weird, right? So I was like, maybe Rain. That's a girl name, but I'm like, that's soft. Like, I'm a rapper, a boxer. Like, you cannot call me Rain. Like, it's too cute.
Right,
it's too cute.
Right.
Not that I'm not cute, but I was like, yo, it's too soft for me. I need something a little oomph to it, I'm reading this book one day, so I kind of gave up on the water thing. I was like, we're gonna have to find something else. But I was still being triggered by Celicia. And so I would just tell people, just call me Cece. Like, everybody call me Cece, just call me Cece. My middle name is Ceceana. I kept that name, I'm cool with that. That didn't break, actually they called me Cece. It didn't break me out of my moment with God, while I was trying to teleport and stuff. So we can be called Cece. That's not disruptive. Celicia got disruptive after a while. But I'm sitting here like, reading, just randomly studying, because I was trying to always do something different. I was listening to E.T. and he was always like pumping my head up with how dope I could be if I would just stay in my lane and master me, So I was like, who me is, I love geography. I love, what I mean? I don't know, man. Don't ask me where you at. West, south, east, I don't know.
What's
all
the
that.
Coordinates?
Yeah, don't ask me none of that. But I'm intrigued by it so much.
Yeah.
It interests me. And so I'm studying this geography book, and it spoke about how the definition of a river. That's what it was. It was definitions of different words. Crazy wordsmith stuff, you know. And it said a river leads to the source. It's from the source and leads to the source. And I'm like, if that's not better than rain, river, and then the definition, it felt so affirmative, like that, like to be named something that you get to, because I wasn't that inspired to live at the time. I was still thinking like I might go still, because I think we've done enough, you know. Think it's time to go hit that bridge, because this is not working out for me. Okay, that, you know, that after I hit that one experience, I hadn't booked another gig, so I was like, maybe this really ain't my thing, and I just kind of got lucky. I don't know, you know. And so I'm reading it thinking like, this is something to live for, to know that, to be reminded that you're from the source. And then to live with the intention to lead others to the source. Because I wanted to be a pastor, a preacher, something like that, but I didn't, and I say that in that way because I've had so many negative experiences with people in the pulpit that I never wanted to have that as my stage. Yeah. And I didn't like the fact that there was such a disconnect between people who needed God and people who had God. I'm like, and then we gang banging on churches and religions. We not coming together.
It's too much.
Oh, you rep Catholic? Oh, I'm Christian, cuz, you know, that's how it felt. That's how it felt for real. So, and I didn't like the gang banging mentality behind the religions, but what I did love was being able to have my own personal relationship with God. Show me why I'm here, damn it. And you give me the most hood response, like, bet.
I got you.
Get over here.
Right.
I'm gonna show you. You know, like that was so real for me. So to be from the source and to lead to the source, it was something.
Dang, that's hard.
So anytime I feel like I'm not worthy or I'm not where I'm supposed to be in life, I remind, like, do you know who you are? River. Took your daddy's biological last name, Jones, and then people say it sounds like a poet's name. Baby, if you only knew, we got bars. We got bars, you know. She's a poet. So I just felt like I didn't like it at first because I thought it sounded weird. You know, I've never heard anybody named River.
It's so dope.
And I met a younger white boy named River, and I'm like, now that's more suited. It kind of makes sense, you know. you was probably really born by the river, my guy. You know, it makes sense. But I couldn't, you know, I'm looking at me with the fro and River.
You ain't no River.
Yeah, I'm like, but I like it though.
I love it.
I didn't think nobody was gonna call me that because everybody was calling me Cece anyways. Even when my name was Celicia, nobody called me Celicia.
River, though.
Thank you.
It's a dope name.
Yeah.
I love the name River. Like I said, I love unique names. Yeah. So one last question before we wrap up. So did you take on your dad's last name to detach from the pain of the other last name? Not
even actually, because it was kind of dope. I had this thing called the D-Ham jab. So as a boxer, they call it the Dillingham jab, but they would cut out the ill and they would just say D-Ham. Okay. So it was the D-Ham jab. You know, I come out, you know, with a good jab. I could win a fight with a jab. Like that's how ill it was. Okay, so they called it the D-Ham jab. So as it was like a celebrity name for me. You know what I mean? Like in my city. You know. So it was like I was known for being a Dillingham as an athlete. And that meant a lot to me because I invested a lot of my time. There's no seasons in boxing. You just in there.
Right.
So it felt like a piece of my identity that I didn't want to let go. And at the same time, I was like, if you're going to find me, thinking about my parents, my mother and her husband, if you're going to find me, I want you to find me knowing that I'm not you and I don't agree with you. Mm-hmm. So that was part of it. The other part of it was like, when I got reconnected with I'll say reconnected. I never knew him growing up, so for me there was never a connection.
Yeah.
Like when people would say, "Oh, that's not your real dad," I would fight them, right? So like, excuse me, I have a dad. I don't need to meet. You look so much like your dad. Yo, get out of here with that. You don't know me or my dad, okay? But I do. I favor this man. I favor my mother so much. Like, I'm meeting him through prison. He's still in there right now. He gonna get out, get a monkey, and all kind of, be preaching to y'all with monkeys and stuff. Apparently, that's his thing. It's strange, but he had felt so guilty. He told me about his immature ways and the foul things he'd done with my mother. You know what I mean? He liked gunplay a little bit too much. Anytime he get emotional, he bring a gun out. He had a drug addiction. He was off of it at one season and on, and one season off and on, and he would feel so embarrassed to even talk to me in his in-between seasons, but he would find himself sober and want to come talk to me. He lived a block away. So I hated this man's guts because when I found out how close he lived, I was like, yo, how could you have a child of your blood live less than 2-3 blocks away? Like, I could see his house from my back window, from my bedroom window. Dang. And you I don't know what you look like, bruh. Like, I don't know your name. How is that possible? There was a lot of pieces of the story I was missing, but I harbored, not even held, I just harbored so much resentment. Like, I don't want nothing to do with him. And so when I got to know the guy, I'm like, you kind of whack, but you kind of dope. You're not so bad. You're not so bad. Like, I'm not cool with the younger you, but the older version of you, me and you is cool. And so I wanted him to know. It was really more so about my relationship with my dad, because I would not call him my dad. Even when I write him, I'll call him Pops. Like, what's up, Pops? You don't get to be dad because I've had this dad, and then I've had other people's parents be dad, and neither one of them things worked out. I done been abandoned by folks and been like, yo, you not dating my people no more? Then we not fooling with you no more. Yeah. Oh, word? Because just a minute ago you was about to adopt me. We had paperwork and everything. Okay, so I'm cool. I'm traumatized by anybody thinking they about to be my dad. Like, I don't need no more parental figures. Right. I'm good.
I'm good on that part.
So by the time me and him connected, it was on some like, yo, I'm not really looking for what you trying to do right now. Like, you missed that. You know what I mean? That mentality. But our relationship and our bond was like, yo, this is where I get this from. This is where I get that from. I'm like, yo, if I was your son, I would end up the same way. Me, I got 2 sisters by him, and we all from different moms, just a few months apart. I'm the middle child, and then I got a little brother, got a whole nother mother. So he did his thing. He did his thing. But the thing was, like, we had connected on the artistry. We had connected on our conversations with God. And we disconnected when I told him I was really like, I'm considering marrying this woman. He was like, you can't marry no woman. You are a woman. I said, what if I was born a hermaphrodite? But you weren't. I was there. He was like, he was not having it. He was like, that's as bad as carrying a 40 in the church. You can't just be having, think of somebody who had an alcoholic addiction, So we had our issues. But I wanted him to know that there was love there. That I did find a belonging with him, and I couldn't say it in words because he was so guilty. No matter what I said to him, he rejected it. So taking on Jones was really like, I fool with you, Pops. Like, we cool people. Cool. Yeah.
So River Jones.
That's what it is. I kept Ciciana, River Jones is what it is.
River Ciciana Jones.
Yeah.
You have an amazing, beautiful story.
Thank you.
And I appreciate you sharing that story.
Word up.
Being so transparent and vulnerable.
If we gotta say it.
That's the only word my vocabulary knows right now. Yeah. But just thank you for being open and sharing your healing space and the work that you do amongst others. It's a beautiful thing, and there's not many people that look like us in that space that's doing it the way that you're doing it. Like, we know the traditional way of, signing up for your therapy appointment weekly, bi-weekly, monthly.
Right.
But I believe that you're doing it in a way that's so raw, so real, so transparent, so loving, so different and unique that it's going to heal better than the average therapist probably could do with somebody who's gone through something like you.
Right.
Who somebody is just trying to say, I just can't look at myself in the mirror. I get out the shower and I turn around backwards, or the first thing I put on is my towel when I get out the shower, instead of saying, I'm gonna get out the shower and just look at myself. Right. Or when I go to the beach, I'm wearing the bathing suit under, but I got the coverall on top of me, or I'm in the pool with my shirt on because I just don't love, my man boobs or my stomach or my thighs or my big legs, and it's just like, there's a River Jones out there for everybody.
Yes, because that man right there's a woman who said, I want that chest to lay on. I don't want all them bone, pokey, muscular, keep all that.
Facts.
Because I want something I could squeeze.
Exactly.
Okay, so trust me.
It's something out there.
I just had to say that. For anybody who feeling that way, trust me.
Exactly.
There's that woman.
There's that woman. There's that guy who just wants to love you. For you. Who wants to hold you just for you. Who wants to hold all the broken pieces and be the person that's helping you with the gold stitching and the gold mold that's pulling you back together, and just being a part of being a vessel for you.
That's a fact.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Like this is like my favorite episode so far. You just helped the podcast go in the direction I wanted to go in. It's just like I've had guests on who share some, like Jamel showed up.
Oh, word.
Y'all like neck and neck. Y'all like neck and neck. Like
we just finally got connected too about a week ago. So, yeah.
He's the one connected us. Reconnected us, should I say?
I about to say, because we met before I met him.
Yeah.
But he was like, y'all need to make this happen.
Yeah. He reconnected us because I know we were when you were here last year, we was talking back when we see each other in passing.
Right. Yeah, because I used to take the trash out with you for greening it.
Yeah, you're the only person that was here on time to help, and the last one to leave and help us still. And that was very appreciative. And man, just want to do a quick commercial real quick, and I want you to just close this out with something powerful, and then I want you to let people know where they can find you and how they can get connected with you to do the healing work that's needed to be done.
Most definitely.
So this episode here is sponsored by the Embolden Institute. It's my program where I help individuals go through the healing process of trauma. If you've gone through something like a traumatic situation, whether it be sexual, physical, emotional, the Embolden Institute is here to help you become a better you and to see you in a better light. Right now, we're starting off with just a text club where I just text you daily messages of encouragement, power, wisdom. You can text me at 404-476-6780. That's 404-476-6780. There's no spam. There's no bots. It's all me. I'm texting you from my heart to yours, just trying to help you do the healing work that River talked about. And that's just all it is. Just people who are in this healing space. We want you to just understand that there's healing work that you have to do. There's healing work that you got to go through. There's stuff that you don't want to touch, that you may not want to even see again. But in that process is where you find healing. Like River said, just take me out. And in your taking out, you're being took into something new. And you're being took into a new life. And that's what we're here to help you do. So River, man, just close us out. Something beautiful, something peaceful, whatever you do, please.
Word up. In this time and space of my life, this is why I wrote From Painful to Peaceful, Damn, and why I've been writing it. I thought I was going to produce it 5 years ago, but I was not healed enough to give the gift of it. And what I realized, and when I say that, the healing is this: there is no greater love than loving yourself. And I say that because the more you love yourself, the more you can love others, right? Like there is a type of understanding that gets surpassed. Like it goes beyond intellect, it goes beyond information, it goes beyond facts. When you can truly forgive yourself, when you can truly support yourself, when you can truly have the discipline of love. So love yourself enough to take the disciplinary actions. Love yourself enough to speak to yourself, not chastising yourself about the healing, what you shoulda, coulda, woulda done, but honoring yourself for what you attempted, honoring yourself for even giving the energy towards the healing. Even if it went the complete opposite route, you know good and well of who you are reacclaiming yourself to be beyond the hurt spaces, right? So as you continue to recognize and see and visualize that version of you, the becoming of it is so natural that your supernatural will just show up and show out without you needing to put so much hard hand on hand, foot to foot work in that process. Love yourself. Yeah, that's the word. Love yourself. As far as connecting with me, I have a couple things going on. So not just the one-on-one sessions, but I officially have opened up the Flow Academy company. Okay, so what we're doing here is an event called the Me Gym. And in this event, it's pretty much a virtual gym for mental and emotional health. And so in this process, what we do is writing therapy. We do the accountability. We have a weekly call to make sure that you're able to have your Q&A session, okay, to make sure that you're able to have some practical tools to use, but you're getting educational sessions on how the human mind works, particularly how yours may be working, right? So you get to be the judge of that, right? But we give you tools that have been proven to use, things that I've used, but I know that everything that works for me is not going to work for everyone else. So I've also brought in tools and some friends to assist with this process, people who are not just in one spectrum of healing, but Reiki masters, people who are pastors, people who are financial gurus. Sometimes the healing is just in managing finances, and when you can manage your time the way you manage your finances, and you budget your time and you invest your time and not just spend it. You ever thought about that, right? How often do we just spend our time or just spend our money? Those things are so interconnected. The way you do one thing, I truly believe it pours out into how you move in all things, right? And so we're talking about lifestyle shifts. This is going to be going on through December because we're going into the new year, the new you. They say it takes about 3 months of therapy. Let's do it. Let's see what kind of transformation and alchemy that can happen within this 3 months. So I am on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. I'm on really all social media platforms, but Instagram and Facebook is where you're going to find me most active, okay? And my email, so I can give that out. MHC, that is Mental Health Coach River, RIVER, MHC River @gmail.com. Or you can find me on Instagram at riverjones_flow. And when you tap that link in the bio, you'll find these beautiful links to either the book or the program or even individual sessions. If you want a personalized moment with me, we can make that happen as well. Those are my favorite, to be honest. I just love being in the work with people and seeing the...
Yeah.
Like, whoa, it's that simple. Yes,
thing.
I love that. And we don't have to see each other face to face. I am heightened in my empathic sensitivity, so we can just be over the phone, and I can say things and feel. It happens all the time. You're going to say, "How did you know that? Are you in my head?"
Right.
What? Like, who told you? Who did you talk to? Like, God snitching on me? Yes. Word up.
It is.
So yeah, riverjones_flow or River C Jones on Facebook. Just reach out. We also have a Flow Academy page. So Flow Academy _12, because Region 12, the boxer in me. Yes. But we're on Instagram on those two pages. So if you're looking for the lessons, rather than just reaching out to me, you'll see all that in the bio when you go to that page. Yeah, I'm excited. Our number, we have a number now.
Okay.
It's 253. Yes, area code from home. I know, West Coast. 253-370-3262. So just go ahead and text me Flow, and you will definitely FLOW, Flow. That stands for Foundational Love, Outlandishly Winning. Don't ask. Okay, the Flow. Okay, so text Flow to 253-370-3262, and I will get back to you. Yes.
All right. Listen, it gets no better than that. We are out. This is Living Blessed, the podcast. I'm your host, Joevan J. Palmer. The lovely River Jones. We out. Peace.